I mentioned to my audience several times concerning communism that is actually slipping into the schools and to indoctrinate our children, not in reading, writing, and arithmetic, but into the forms of communism. And I was quite thrilled to know that you have been working on this yourself. Let me ask you, you're from Oregon, and Oregon is one of the places that's going to be instituting, is it Portland? That's
yes,
just going to be
Oregon.
It's going to be introduced in some of the classrooms there.
Absolutely. The Portland is the largest school district in Oregon, serving some 49,000 students.
Think about that.
In elementary through high school. And Portland, Oregon Public Schools passed a resolution recently which essentially banned the use of textbooks which had any reference to questioning the validity of climate change or global warming, which basically says all we're going to teach students in Portland is that it is existent and it is man-made. And that's not education. It's exactly what you said. It's indoctrination. And the direct link between what Portland Public Schools is instituting and communism comes from the fact in the resolution it specifically mentions not only climate literacy about climate change, that's kind of a cover, but it also mentions social justice, which we've talked about before, and what the definition of social justice is. What's vitally important to understand is why this is communism is the definition of social justice, which the Education for Sustainability, the environmental education movement is using, directly aligns with the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States, directly aligns with that definition of communism. So there's no question, there's no wiggle room that what social justice means is to teach communism, and Portland, Oregon just very boldly is instituting this, and it must be turned around, or these poor 49,000 children will be learning to support communism, not the U.S. Constitution.
Let me ask you this. Who is behind this kind of garbage? There has to be somebody that publishes the literature. It has to be somebody that writes the textbooks. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, who actually, is their name, is there a person, is there a publishing company that is getting this information to the public schools?
Well, a good example of this is, say, for example, Second Nature. Second Nature was an organization founded by former Senator John Kerry, and the goal of that organization was to institute transformation in the United States. The goals of that organization match Green Party goals in communism, and that organization has also been very instrumental in writing curriculum themselves and infusing that into the schools. In the Portland school situation, I believe the name of one of the books they were referencing as a potential use to teach this curriculum is called The People's Curriculum for the Earth, and that was written by Bill Bigelow. And why that's important is Bill Bigelow is the editor of Rethinking Schools magazine. Bill Bigelow is also, and Rethinking Schools, one of the founding organizations of the Howard Zinn Education Project. What's important about that is Howard Zinn has an FBI file over 400 pages long in which he was investigated by the FBI for his ties to communism, his commitment to communism, his ties to other revolutionary movements throughout his life. He is now deceased, but Rethinking Schools has, with the Zinn Education Project, made it their mission to continue teaching his ideas in America's schools. So there's one specific, or actually two specific, direct links to where this curriculum comes from. And behind it, I believe, stands the Communist Party. I mean, forever, even Khrushchev said, we will take you over from within without firing a single shot. Certainly, politically indoctrinating our children to support communism under the guise of environmental protection is certainly a way to get that job done.
Okay, John Kerry, John and Teresa Kerry, which she is a very wealthy lady, and her and John Kerry married after her husband passed away. John Kerry replaced Hillary Clinton in our government and is traveling all over the world right now.
As Secretary of State, yes.
Yeah, speaking everywhere, speaking and becoming a voice for the United States of America. And you say that he and his wife is behind this?
They're definitely instrumental.
A part of it.
Absolutely. Second Nature was started in 1993 when it was the brainchild of then Senator John Kerry himself. This was his pet project. So definitely 100% right there. And Second Nature is known as the leading national in the United States as well as international organization which was pushing education for sustainability. And again, the reality of what we're looking at is whether it's climate change. We're looking at environmental education. And environmental education, whether it's education for sustainability, climate literacy, environmental literacy, social justice, it's all presented under this banner, but it's all politicized curriculum with a common denominator of teaching the ideology of communism as a baseline, which includes the anti-God humanist component.
Right. Do you realize, Holly, how much social justice has infiltrated the church scene today and how many churches are actually pushing and promoting this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the idea, I believe, as it started, very similar to how environmental education started, the idea started as a way to help the poor and to be loving and kind and do unto others, and which is something we all support, the wisdom of the ages. However, it has been turned into and morphed into an idea of social justice to the point where it's almost mandated. The key is who defines the term. You or I might have years ago, before researching it, defined the term as just, again, helping the poor, generosity. What it means now is the redistribution of the wealth. And this is how, allow me to read this. This is from a definition of social justice from a leading education for sustainability group who happens to specialize in education for sustainability curriculum, what's being introduced as curriculum, another source of this. And the organization is called Facing the Future. Their definition of social justice is the movement towards eliminating oppression and ultimately achieving equality in the distribution of goods and wealth among all groups in society. And again, that matches in a recent article I wrote. Let me read the definition of communism by the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. It is a system of government in which the state plans and controls the economy, and a single, often authoritarian, party holds power. State controls are imposed with the elimination of private ownership of property or capital, while claiming to make progress toward a higher social order in which all goods are equally shared by the people. It's exactly the same political goal. The carrot, of course, the higher social order, is we're going to create a utopian environment, a wonderful environment where things are perfect. This is the picture that is being drawn for our children in school.
And loving,
and the idea.
Let me interject, Holly, and loving and taking care of the poor.
Well, yes. But
see, they're coming in under that covering, is what I'm saying.
Got it.
And see, exactly. It encourages me when I hear others such as yourself say this, because I've been trying to tell the people here for years that this is communism. And the fact that it's coming in under the cover, under the banner of environmentalism, and under the banner of helping the poor. Right. I hope the people that are listening to this program today, that you get your eyes open to what Holly is saying. We have been saying it here over and over again, but she's given you a lot more detail than I have been able to do so. And so, Holly, this is not only is this coming into our public schools and it's being taught, it's also being taught in our churches.
Absolutely.
So, and I mean a very large majority of the churches today. All right, now, John Kerry, let me get back, because this troubles me greatly, because I have shared with the people how many of our elected officials are actually, should I say communist? I mean, is John Kerry a communist because he has introduced this type of information and wants the public school to teach this? Do we say he's a communist? How do we describe somebody like this?
Because he happens to be a high-ranking official in the party, the Democrat Party, he would be considered, if he was being labeled by some, as a progressive. However, I believe, and I think you're hitting the nail right on the head, is that we need to take a look at these policies in our schools as political indoctrination. We need to look at those who are pushing these policies for what they stand for. And the goals of social justice, the goals of second nature, line up with Green Party goals and communism. So I think it would be fair to say, very reasonably, that what John Kerry, second nature, is advocating, Teresa Heinz Kerry are advocating, is definitely a shift toward a communist form of government. And when you take an oath to protect the U.S. Constitution, you should be expected to uphold that oath.
Right.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the connection between climate change and communism? I understand that climate change, a lot of people would think that's a good thing to support,
right,
but they don't understand that it's really anti-capitalism. That's the agenda behind. They're just using the environmental issues as a cover or a smoke screen for trying to destroy capitalism. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. One of the goals on the Portland Public Schools resolution includes, how did they put it? Let's see, redefine our economy and call for an end to the fossil fuel era. And so the idea here is to introduce the idea of climate literacy, which sounds very nice, but then if you do not read the details and the goals, you may not realize, the parents and others living in Portland may not realize, the goal is to end the use of fossil fuels. It is to take control of that particular auto and energy industry. And the idea, it's just deception. It is false advertising. It is exactly what you said. It comes in one way without disclosing, and this is critically important to understand. The environmental movement started imposing and pushing environmental education in the 70s and has just gradually escalated to continue to push Green Party goals into our schools under the guise of teaching environmental education without disclosing to the American people that the agenda that is attached to this and what the kids are learning, what our children are learning, mirrors Green Party goals and communism. The connection between green movement, green environmental movement, green communism, and greening our schools is to basically put it all together so it's coming from so many different directions, you're not able to pin it down. And what we've been able to do is pin it down to exactly what it is, political indoctrination in our schools. Our children are in harm's way. We need to remove these programs. We need to suspend these programs. We need to stop funding these programs and return our schools to safe havens of learning. And we need to do that immediately, if not sooner, because our children are going to be going back to school, especially those in Portland, and be indoctrinated. There's also, as you were just mentioning, climate change. There's also a bill that has just been introduced in the Senate by Senator Markey, and that bill is designed specifically to create a nationwide climate literacy program to teach our children about climate literacy. And there you have another layer of the imposition of a national curriculum ties right into what you were talking about, Francis, with Common Core, a common curriculum, which goes right back to the environmental movements